Finding inverse function quadratic. Before we get started, let's take a look at the steps in finding the inverse function of a quadratic function. First, replace f of x by y. Second, switch the roles of x and y. In other words, interchange x and y in the equation, and then solve for y in terms of x. After solving, we replace y by f inverse of x to get the inverse function. Sometimes it is helpful to use the domain and range of the original function to identify the correct inverse function out of two possibles. This happens when we get a plus or minus in the end. Also, one last thing is do not forget to check your work. So now let's take a look at the first example problem. It says find the inverse function of f of x is equal to x squared minus 2. So now we're just going to follow the steps. So we're going to write out the equation. F of x is equal to x squared minus 2. Now we want the inverse, so it says to replace f of x by y. So y is equal to x squared minus 2. And then after that, you interchange x and y and solve for y in terms of x. So it's going to look like this. X is equal to y squared minus 2. Now we want to solve for y squared. So what we have to do is we have to add 2 to both sides. When we add 2 to both sides, we get x plus 2 is equal to y squared. Now we have a square, so when we have a square, we square root both sides of the equation. So then over here, 2 and 2 got cancelled out, leaving with y is equal to radical x plus 2. So that is the answer. So now we write in the terms of the inverse f of x. It's going to look like this. F inverse of x is equal to radical x plus 2. Now, the way that we check the work is kind of different, but not really. So we're basically using the composition of those functions. So it's going to look like this. F composition, F the composition of the inverse 1, the inverse of x. So f parentheses f of inverse of x. That's how it's going to look like. So we're going to plug in this radical x plus 2 to the original equation where the x belongs. So when we do that, we get so it's radical x plus 2, and we have a square minus 2. So this is going to cancel out. X plus 2 minus 2 plus 2 and minus 2 are going to be canceled out, leaving with x. So now we see that this is a function. This is actually the inverse of the function. So the actual answer is this: f inverse of x radical x plus 2. And when we check to verify our work, we want to make sure that they are actually inverse. So now let's take a look at the second problem. It says find the inverse function of g of x is equal to 4 parentheses x minus 3 with the fifth root plus 21. So let's try this and let's follow the steps. These are actually 6 simple steps that we can do. Well, 5 is not necessarily for all the problems, but for some of them you need them. So g of x is equal to 4 parentheses x minus 3 with the fifth root plus 21. So y is equal to 4 parentheses x minus 3 with the fifth root plus 21. So interchange x and y and solve y in terms of x. So x is equal to 4 parentheses y minus 3 fifth root plus 21. Now over here you subtract 21 to both sides. So x minus 21 is equal to 4 parentheses y minus 3 with the 5th root. So it's going to be over here. X minus 21 is equal to 4 y minus 3 5th root. So you divide 4 to both sides. So x minus 21 over 4 is equal to y minus 3 with the 5th root. Now what you do is you take the 5th root to both sides of the equation. So 5th root and 5th root. In this case, it is going to be cancelled out. So leaving with 5th root of x minus 21 over 4 is equal to y minus 3. So now you add 3 to both sides of the equation. You get y is equal to radical x minus 21 5th root x minus 21 over 4 plus 3. And you write in terms of f inverse of x is equal to radical 5th root x minus 21 over 4 plus 3. So before that, we want to check our work. Oh, also this radical is for the whole solution, not just the numerator but also the denominator. So we get the answer. This is the answer, but we want to check our work to verify what we did is actually inverse or no. So let's use the composition. F composition of the inverse. F of the inverse of x. And then so you plug it back to the equation. So g of x is equal to 4 parentheses 5th root x minus 21 over 4 plus 3 and minus 3 5th root and then plus 21. So g of x is equal to 4. This is going to be cancelling out, leaving with x minus 21 over 4. Also, this is going to be cancelling out, leaving with this plus 21. And you multiply 4 and 4 is going to be cancelling out, leaving with x minus 21 plus 21. And 21 and 21 is going to be cancelling out, leaving with x. So this is actually a function. Now let's do the last example. Find the inverse function of f of x is equal to 7th root of 5x plus 8. So let's write down the equation. F of x is equal to the 7th root of 5x plus 8. And you rewrite using y equal radical 7th root of 5x plus 8. And you interchange x and y and solve in terms of x. Solve for y in terms of x. 5y plus 8. And what you do over here is you take the exponent to make sure that the radical is going to be cancelling out. So it's x to the 7th is equal to, this is going to be cancelled out. The radical and the exponent is going to be cancelling out, leaving with x squared is equal to 5y plus 8. Now you subtract 8 to both sides of the equation. So x to the 7th minus 8 is equal to 5 for y. And you divide 5 in order to get y equals. So y is equal to y is equal to x to the 7th minus 8 over 5. And you rewrite this as the inverse. F of inverse x is equal to x to the 7th minus 8 over 5. And now we got the answer. Now we got the solution, but we want to make sure that if it is actually a function or no. So let's try it over here. So f of the inverse. Well, actually, over here, this is supposed to be g of inverse, but then I'm not used to with f of x, so sorry about this. I meant to say g of g inverse, and then g parentheses g of inverse of x. Yes. So over here, you do that. F. So I'm not going to, I'm skipping this step over here. I'm just moving on. So 7th root 5, and then x to the 7th minus 8 to the 5th. Okay. Plus 8. So over here, 5 and 5 is going to be cancelled out, leaving with radical 7th root of x 7th minus 8 plus 8. This is going to be cancelled out, leaving with radical 7th root of x to the 7th power, and 7 and 7 is going to be cancelled out, leaving with x. So we know that this is actually a function. So I hope that you know how to find those functions by just simply following those 6 steps over here. And I'm pretty sure that you can find domain and range by using those. You have to make sure that the range of f is the inverse is the domain of the inverse f of x. Thank you and have a great day.